Looks like it takes a minute on this one for the record to hit. So still thinking about recording. That's interesting.
It shows it's recorded on my end.
Okay, now I finally got the red. All right, awesome. Well, again, good morning, and thank you for sharing this time with me.
Thank you. Good morning.
Can you tell me your name and what do you do?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Chinwe Efuribe. I am a pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist. And basically, what that means is that I care for children from the ages of birth up to the ages of about 25 or young adults. And we provide acute care, preventive care, and basically coach them through life and how to take charge of themselves.
Yeah, this one takes a minute for it to come off of, come on and come off. So tell me where you were born and raised.
I was born in Nigeria, Ibadan, Nigeria to be exact. And we moved from Nigeria to Houston, Texas when I was about 8.5 years old. And I've basically been in the States since then. But I still speak Igbo, and a lot of my family is still in Nigeria.
Can you speak? Can you spell that? Because we transcribe, and I'm sure the transcribers will be like, "What did she say?" What
Sure.
is the name of the place that you're from?
Sure. Ibadan is Ibadan, and that's in Nigeria.
Okay.
Um, and the language is Igbo, Igbo.
Awesome. And how did you get into medicine?
Well, I have been exposed to family members who are in the healthcare field. My mom's a nurse, my dad's a pharmacist, and I have a lot of aunts who are nurses. And so I think it's just one of those old tenets that most Nigerian families want their children to either be doctors, lawyers, or pharmacists. And so I basically fell in love for it with the field myself when I got into college. I was a biology major, and our chair at that time exposed us to healthcare missionary work. And so, on these missionary work experiences, I was exposed to the needs of the underserved. And I think it was at that point that I felt I wanted to do what I could to heal, just allow people to have the opportunity to live their best lives, but live it in a healthy way. And so I think my love for medicine for myself was kind of ignited during that time in college.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Oakwood University. It's in Huntsville, Alabama.
I didn't know that. Been waiting until that plane goes by. I'm actually from Alabama.
Are you really? Get
Yeah,
out of here. What part?
it's called Monroeville. It's very small.
Oh,
It's like in between Montgomery and Mobile.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I know Huntsville very well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Um, so describe your experience of being a Black woman. Well, again, I always preface this by saying, from people who were not born in the country, when you come to the US, if your skin looks like ours, you get categorized as Black or African American, even if you're not. And so what is that experience like? Because of course, now you're Black. You're
Yes, I mean, it's definitely an interesting phenomenon. I think what I've come to find out over the years is that minorities, including Blacks like myself, I find that we have to kind of prove ourselves a little bit more than the average, whether it's with our applications and activities that we list or experiences. There seems to be something that says it's not enough to just meet the goal. You have to kind of exceed the goal. And I think over the years, I've just kind of come to expect that, and done above and beyond what is expected of me. And I see a lot of that in my colleagues as well. But I mean, it's exciting because I see a lot of Black women really rising to the challenge and making names for themselves and impacting the world, and the spheres of influence which they have. So I think it just makes us better. But yes, it does come with its challenges over the years.
So, like I said, when you come from another country and you come to the US and now you become Black, or African American, whichever, you embrace. But what is that like because you're not just dealing with, white people's version of you, but you're also dealing with Black people's version of you because you were born in another country, even though it's our motherland. Yeah,
True, true, true.
what is that experience like, and especially as a woman, and with other women, because we see more of them in the workplace. But
Yeah. I mean, I think I used to tell folks that when I first came here, the idea of Black History Month was quite foreign to me, because in Nigeria, we weren't quite exposed to that extent of what slavery was like here in the US. And so coming to the US, where we had this utopia vision of what America would be like, and coming here and seeing almost like a different version of that was a bit jarring. And so it took me a while to kind of get adjusted to uh, the different sides of America. And then I think for me, it wasn't until I reached higher levels of education that I felt I needed to um, be more, no, not necessarily. I think the more I got into higher levels of education, the more I embraced that idea of being Black in America. I think prior to that, and maybe just be something about like our upbringing within the Nigerian family. I mean, we were Nigerian in the house, but then Black American outside of the house. And so it took a while for us to kind of merge those two identities into one, I will say. And so it wasn't until you kind of, get up in higher levels of education that you're seeing, no, there is an intersection that we have to address, and then we become advocates, for all of us, because then we're all in this kind of melting pot together. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I felt any sort of like adversity with non-African, descendants who were Black. I didn't necessarily feel any adversity per se, but I think there are jokes that said, oh, Africans were always in like the AP classes, or you thought that you were better than anyone else. And so I think I heard those generalizations. It wasn't necessarily part of my particular spheres friendships, but I think that those stereotypes are out there. But I think the more advanced you are in your career, in your activities, it's no longer, it doesn't matter as much, because then everybody's just really trying to have that impact that they want to have, and then all these identities kind of merge, I think. But I don't know if I answered your
yeah,
questions.
you did. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh, I would say be more courageous, um, take more risks, and don't worry too much about the perfect outcome. I think I've learned so much as I've gotten older that a lot of people don't really care how perfect what you're doing really is. It's just really how much of an impact it has on their lives, how much transformation it has, in the way that they are. Sorry, my daughter is calling.
Of course.
No, can you please just give me a break for a second, okay? Thank you. No, thanks. Sorry.
Aw, I have boys.
We're recording, so you can't come and interrupt me, please. Okay?
I have boys, so that to me, even that is just amazing. Everything's relative, right?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Everything's relative.
Yes, everything is definitely relative. It's definitely relative.
So, what advice would you give to younger, other young women coming from Nigeria who were wanting to get into medicine, and how to survive in the States?
Yeah, I think the one thing that has benefited me by far is collaboration. Um, you are not an island. No matter how much knowledge, how much education, what your family background is, no matter what assets you feel that you bring into a society, nothing gets accomplished outside of community. And so, without always, and what I do always encourage for the younger generation is just build community. Build community of assets, build community of resources, community of experiences, of laughter, of humor, because sometimes life can be challenging, but to know that you're going through life with others, either who are struggling with the same things you're struggling with or succeeding in the same way that you're succeeding, there's something to be said about community and growing within a supportive, nurturing community that I feel like is so underrated sometimes.
Um, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life over the last 6 months or recent memory?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I will say I purchased a or less, honestly, Canva. Canva. Canva is because I'm really big on communication. I feel like you can have a lot of like details and logistics, but if you can't communicate that information in a clear and an appealing in a way that grabs people and gets their attention, then all that information kind of is worthless. So Canva is an app that I use almost like weekly, if not if not daily, because I find that one, it helps me in at work, because even for patients, I work with a lot of teenagers and young adults that sometimes you can kind of try to explain something to them verbally, but until you show them a picture of that information, oh my goodness, it's worth so much to see their faces have this aha moment, like, oh, now I get it. And so I love Canva. I love Canva.
So what do you like most about your job?
By far, my interaction with the youth and young adults that I work with, and I say work with because I feel like I partner with them in their health, to get them to healthy beings, to have full well-being, to realize their better selves. And so I think I love being able to see young people set goals for themselves, and then when they meet those goals, how excited they are to come back and share that with us. For example, just yesterday, I saw a 10-year-old boy. He had a lot of complex needs, but was coming to us in our weight management clinic. And at his last visit with the physical therapist, he had these daily goals that he was set to meet. And literally, it was just literally 1 minute on the treadmill on this day, and then increasing it to 2 minutes on the treadmill, and the goal was to get to 10 minutes on the treadmill. And let me tell you how excited he was to come to us with his little form. It was almost like a prescription, exercise prescription. He brought it to us and was so giddy to share, look, I made my goal. And I think for me, it's just one of those things where I feel like I'm most impactful when I see the young person themselves being able to enjoy their accomplishments, because it's not about me. I may be the healthcare provider, but it's not about me. It's about them being able to realize that for themselves, and that brings me so much joy.
In the last 5 years or so, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
um I think the most that's a very good question. The one habit that I know that I try to do consistently is just reflection. I think sometimes we get so busy just running, and not making time to reflect on the past week, reflecting on the future week, reflecting on the day, having things that you're looking forward towards for that day, and then being able to, at the end of the day, reflect and say, oh my goodness, I did all right, or oh my goodness, there's still room for improvement. I think that self-awareness is so important as we evolve as human beings, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to impart on to the patients that I see is just learning how to learn about yourselves, learning how to adapt, learning how to manage your moods, learning how to manage your time, like the simplest things. But for myself, I feel like I need to be a model of that so that I can be able to speak from experience when I share this information with my patients. To say, yeah, I know it's hard to drink water. Dude, I'm trying to do that too. But here's what I've tried, and here's how I give myself a pat on my back or incentives whenever I meet small goals, so that I have momentum to keep going. But I think one thing as a healthcare provider that I look forward to, and sometimes it can allow us to be vulnerable, and that vulnerability can be a bit scary for physicians. But for me, I've come to be comfortable in that vulnerability, and I think having that self reflection allows me to have to be able to embrace my humanity in that sense.
When you feel overwhelmed or you lose focus, what do you do to get back to center?
I love that question. I love that question, because centering is something that I firmly believe is important for us, to be able to adjust in life. For me, to be honest, it's a couple of things. It's music, uh, something about music, and it can depend on my mood and what type of music I need to find some centering within. But music allows me to get to that point, to just pause. And of course, silent prayer for me. I'm a woman of faith, and I think being able to connect with someone beyond myself, knowing that I cannot plan every single point of my life, but whoever created me, the power that created me, has a greater insight into what my potential is. And so I think being able to have faith and rest in that belief is what keeps me going during hard times. But to start me off, I get on Pandora and I find some music to kind of get me into that meditative state.
How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
Um, how does failure? Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Yeah, of course. How has failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success?
Ooh. Oh, I know a good number of times that I've failed. I think it has set me up to, again, embrace my humanity, because I think in that failure, it allows me to realize my weaknesses and understand that idea of seeking out the resources within my community to be able to help me get back up again. And especially if I feel like I'm feeling in the same areas, then it's almost like a wake up call that, okay, no, you need to stop trying to do this on your own. If you can't, if you haven't uh, um, uh, uh, assessed this by now, it's like I am a go getter and I try my best to solve problems, to the best of my ability before asking for help. And sometimes that gets me in trouble. But I
Mhm.
think when I do fail, it allows me to just reset, as a way to reset and say, all right, um, this needs to happen, but it may need to happen in a different way that you don't necessarily have perspective on. So, who around you do you need to reach out to get that perspective? Is it time? Maybe this is not the right time to accomplish the particular goal that I'm trying to attain. And so, patience, patience truly is something that I've learned to embrace and say, maybe this may not be the time. And so, I think for me, failure allows me to reach out to my community and develop the patience that I need to endure.
Fun question.
Could you hold
What?
on, could you hold on for 1 second?
Of course.
What's up? Okay. Bye.
Is that your daughter? I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
How are you jealous?
I have boys.
How many
You
boys do
know,
you
I have two. I have a 14-year-old and a 27
have?
year
Oh
old. And
wow.
let me tell you, I'm always having to chase them down, you know? And but the girls are so like when my niece comes and she's always like right there, and I'm just not, and it's just like it's
Oh,
so
you're saying the
endearing.
opposite. Oh, you're trying to.
Yeah. So I'm like, your daughter, of course, she's like, and you're like, oh, and it's like, yeah, yeah. But I don't know. God gave me
That's
boys.
right.
But yeah, but I do. I envy you that.
That's right.
So a question. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? Remembering that everything's relative.
um, absurd thing that I love. I'm trying to figure out which one. um, besides, for me, I can't go to sleep without laughing. So, like, like I have to like laugh, and my husband kind of thinks I'm a little weird for doing that. But it's like when he's talking to me about something serious, and I'm about to go to bed, I was like, and so and so I either find something online, Trevor Noah or something. I have to like laugh to sleep. I laugh myself to sleep. So for some people that seems a bit odd. Um, but other than that, I love pineapples on pizza. That seems to be, I know, right? That seems to be a hot topic for some and not others. Yeah, I love pineapple on pizza. Yeah.
If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere in the world, and you had a message that you could get out to millions or billions of people, what would that message be?
Ooh. Honestly, the message would be empower our youth to take charge of their lives. Empower our youth to take charge of their lives. And I think the reason for that for me is just seeing some of the things that we as adults either struggle with or have hard times managing. And a lot of it are based on either lifestyle behaviors, lifestyle habits that we developed during adolescence. And I think, and even just being able to manage our moods. I mean, we're seeing high rates of, mental health conditions, high rates of diabetes, high rates of cardiovascular disease, and majority of that can be tied to how we're able to center ourselves, how we're able to be moderate in enjoying the things that we enjoy in life, but also staying away from things that cause us harm. And I think we get more practice doing that during adolescence than we will as children or as adults. And I think that's honestly my message that I'm trying to get out is there's something to be said about helping young people know how to become more self-aware, how to manage their moods, how to manage their diets, and how to manage their physical activity. Simple things that will reap dividends in their adulthood. But that's my message.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
In the last 5 years, honestly, I would say the idea of taking chances um, and taking more risks. And I say risks, not haphazard risks, not risks without planning, but the idea of projections, the idea of saying, "What if?" I think, you know, being a science major, we're really focused on the scientific method and making sure we get accurate and specific results at all times. But I think I'm also learning more about business and learning that in business, sometimes you have to try it out first to know how to make the adjustments. And we can spend all day, every day trying to perfect a method, but sometimes the method becomes perfected along the way, along the process. And I think that has been so eye opening for me, and it's like a whole new world for me.
How has how have you become better at saying no to distractions, invitations, and um, any- anything of that nature?
I think I've become better at saying no to things when I find that those things don't match my values. I think the more I have become concrete in my values, concrete in the things that matter most to me, the things that bring me joy, it's easier to identify when opportunities uh, are not aligning to those values. And and so and then again, it's having reflective moments to be able to kind of reassess my activities. Like, how is this activity fitting into the things that I know bring me joy? I can do, and again, I'm optimistic. I feel like I can learn how to do anything if I just spend time and do enough practice. But I'm learning that I don't have to do everything, and I need to spend more time doing things that keep me more closer to the things that matter most to me, and the things that help me stay centered. Anything that causes me too much angst to even perform, I think, is most times not necessarily my best interest, no matter how good it sounds.
Um, is there a moment or an experience in your life that changed your way of thinking?
Ooh, which one? Does it matter time frame or ever? I think I'm trying to think of the most memorable. Ooh wee. All right. I've recently. Ah, let me go back. I'm gonna go back because I think this ties into like how I approach life now, and the idea of really trying to stay more centered in life. So when I was in pediatric residency, um, you would imagine I had finished my undergrad as a biology major. I finished medical school, and then I applied to be a pediatrician. And in residency, after my first year, I questioned whether I was supposed to be a doctor. And the reason I questioned that idea was because I was exposed to a wonderful, wonderful mentor, um, who was a social worker. I'll never forget her. Her name is Diane Butera. And she was part of a grant that exposed the pediatric residents to community pediatrics. And that meant taking them outside of the hospital, having them tour the city to be able to see how the environment affected the health of the population that we see. We also went to schools and saw how the education system impacted the health of our patients. And I think it was at that moment that I almost questioned, I should have been a social worker. What am I doing in medicine? But yeah, that experience during my first year, the latter half of my first year, really opened my eyes to kind of understand this whole idea now that we call social determinants of health. Back then, I feel like those in the social sciences were far more advanced in understanding how our environments impact our well-being. And I think it was at that moment that I really truly decided that my medical practice was going to be different. It was going to be different in a way that I was going to focus on the whole person. I was going to ask more about their family. I was going to ask more about their school. I was going to ask more questions about their employment plans or career plans. I was going to involve other caregivers in their lives. But just the whole idea that their health was determined by things not not focused just on their biology, but on their environment. And so it's something that has carried with me, and I hope to expand it in my future ventures. But yes, that whole idea of social determinants of health, I think, changed my life.
What do you see as your purpose in life?
My purpose is to build communities who are engaged um, for a unified purpose. I think that's what I found myself. I found myself doing that. I build communities to engage for a unified purpose, and I've seen that just whether it's in church with creating youth ministries, whether it's starting a health cooking collaborative when I was working at a clinic, again, this is outside of my day job. It's just, hey guys, let's share recipes and, talk about them and exchange ideas and suggestions. Um, it's me being able to identify different silos of activities and be a bridge between those silos. When I was in high school, I used to make the joke that if someone was to bring all my friend groups into one space, people would wonder, how was she able to connect with this group and that group and this group? But it wasn't that I wasn't being myself. I'm just so in tune with um, the perspectives of others that it allows me to find common ground easily. And I think that's helpful when you're being a bridge. And so I find myself that I find opportunities, or opportunities find me to be able to connect people and connect groups and communities in different ways.
My dog is following.
I think my nose, let me just kind of
Yeah, no worries.
I don't know. I think some of that got caught on there, but okay. Hopefully you can't. I can't see it, but hopefully.
You can't see anything. I'm not sure if I asked you this one about how do you give back to the community? Do we talk about that one?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you give back?
How do I give back to the community? Most times, I think I spend my free time in mentoring and advocacy in certain ways, but definitely with mentoring, I enjoy talking to young doctors in training or pre-health majors, who are just kind of trying to understand what life is like as a physician and how do you manage the non-medical aspects of being a physician. But then other ways that I give back, especially through the Austin Black Physicians Association, is just is trying to find opportunities to inspire and nurture the next generation of Black doctors. You can hear that.
It's fine. It
Okay.
was toward the end.
And then, because I was going to add, is it too late to add? Okay. Another way that I give back to the community is just through my faith-based organizations. I think I spend a lot of times. I spend time just working with young people in churches, whether it's creating programs, whether it's connecting them to resources that will help them and empower them, not just spiritually, but just holistically. And so throughout my years, no matter where I've gone for training, I've found a church somewhere. And even here in Alabama, I found a church where I've done some engagement activities with the young people.
You said you have a son and a daughter.
Yes, I do.
How do you think they'll remember you?
I think they'll remember me for ooh, that's a good question. I know how I want them to remember me, but they might remember me for always working. um, yeah, but you know what? I will say this. I think they'll remember me for being adventurous because I have taken them on a number of excursions throughout my life. Even, when I work with young people in church, like they're there with me as I'm doing those activities. When we travel, I can't tell you how many times we've been on, flights together or road trips together, and just really exploring. I love traveling. I love exploring. I can't travel as much with kids, but wherever we do get to go, I enjoy bringing them along, and we have fun. We rollerblade together. And we just find time to kind of just hang around.
What are you most proud of?
Ooh, ooh. I mean, there are different arenas. If I think of the different hats that I wear in my life, at the end of the day, I'm most proud of being a mom that's present enough with her children despite her busy schedule. I think my children have taught me to turn things off when I'm with them. And so I think I'm most proud of learning from them and learning through them how to be more present in life. And so I'm most proud of how I've evolved as a mother and as a person as well.
Who's your favorite person?
Ooh, by far, I think my favorite person is my son. um, yeah, my son. My son has high function autism, and he has taught me to be very adaptable to when things don't go as planned. When he was younger, there are certain milestones he wasn't meeting. And as a pediatrician, it's like, wait a minute, you should be doing this by now. This should be doing. And so there were so many rigid expectations that I had about how my child should be. And he was my second child. So I already had a first one that did those things. And so him being my second and not following the plan, I think he's taught me to just relax because I've watched him evolve with therapies at school, and outside in the home. I've just watched him grow. I've watched him, do things that he wasn't doing before. And it's taught me to say, just chill out. I'm going to do things in my own time. I'm going to excel in other areas that you may not expect for me to excel. I may not necessarily engage socially as you would want me to. However, I'm improving. I'm getting better. And so I think he's right now my favorite person because I just love watching what he's going to do next that will kind of surprise me and take me out of any sort of like expected compartmentalized thinking that I've had in the past. But he's allowed me to be more flexible in life.
What's the best place you've ever lived?
Pardon me?
The best place you've ever lived?
Ooh. Oh, good question. I will say the best place I've ever lived, and I've lived in a good number of places. I've lived in Canada, in England, and Uganda, Nigeria. I think Uganda, honestly, weirdly enough, I only spent 3 months there, but I would say that was, in terms of like thinking of countries, Uganda is the best place that I live in the country, but in the US, Connecticut has been the best place that I've lived. Maybe I can explain the reasons why. But in Uganda, it was where part of my medical school training, I did tropical medicine and some other rotations while I was there. And I think that was the first time that I recognized my full identity as a Nigerian Black American because I was in Uganda, but at that time, some of my identity was a bit distant or separated from me. But the Ugandans there would call me Muzungu, and and in the language there, it's Muzungu is a term for white people, and so so I think it was eye opening to me because I was like, how are you gonna call me Muzungu? I'm one of you. But then it almost kind of galvanized me to want to prove to them that I am Nigerian, I am African, like more the commonality of being African. I think I was on a mission to kind of, closer identify with those roots because I had been in the US for a while and I can see why, again, my accent, none of that. But I think I was even more determined to tie to my Nigerian heritage. But then I also was somewhat able to embrace the American side of me to say, yeah, I am, again, this conglomerate of a being. But there are different parts of me that I can pull out and pull in when I need to, depending on the situation and what it calls for. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people. And I think I realized that my goal was more to connect with them. And I think to connect with them was to find that African connection. In Connecticut, I loved living there because I think that's when I found myself. Again, I think it's all about self-identity. But that was the first time I had just finished residency, and I had 9 months to kind of do whatever I wanted to do before I started my adolescent medicine fellowship. And so during that time, I worked part-time as a hospitalist in a newborn nursery. But I had time. I only worked 3 days a week, and I didn't do anything else. And I said, what am I going to do with this extra time? And it's so different from being in residency, where it's like 30-hour shifts and call. And during that time, I learned to play the guitar. I played at different open mic nights and sang and did poetry. And I even have a YouTube video of a collaboration I did with the singer where I played and she sang in the RE, and I found myself and I was like, oh, so this is what it means to have free time. and I just loved how I was able to, again, evolve, being able to have more reflection with who I was and what I wanted to do and what brought me joy. And so I found that those things really, really brought me joy.
No, I think you already answered, but one of the last questions I have is, what do you enjoy doing in your leisure time?
Yeah, in my leisure time, I mean, besides playing with my kids and doing something just fun, I love music. I love poetry. I haven't gotten a chance to do it more lately, but nowadays, if I'm not at work, um, I'm most likely either rollerblading with my children, yeah, or at the trampoline park. But yeah.
How do you want to be remembered once you're long gone?
That she was an Energizer bunny who was about connecting with people for sustainable community impact. Um, Something about just humor, I think, is really good medicine. Something about just not taking yourself so seriously, I think, is good medicine. Mind you, it's a daily struggle. I'm not saying that I'm there and fully perfect at it yet, but I strive towards it each day and each time, and I tell myself, I have different affirmations that I tell myself to, hey, it's gonna be all right, let it go, it's not that deep. But then, so I want people to remember me as someone who was able to embrace life enough to not take herself too seriously, but was also really, really big on human connection. Being able to create ties and bonds and have others, connect with each other as well too, on common ground, but most importantly for impact. I think my curse over the years is that they tell me you can't just do things. Can't you just do the simple things and and just go about life? But I always want to do it for impact. Like I want it to benefit other people. Like it's not just about me checking a box to say that I did it. It's like, well, who's going to benefit from this? Who's going to grow from this? Who's going to who's going to be transformed by this? And so I think I always have that in mind when I take on projects, is how can this be transformational for other people?
Um, do you have a favorite book or a book you'd recommend?
Yes. Eat, Pray, Love. Eat, Pray, my life. I don't even know whose car that is. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry. You can't edit that out, can you?
I mean, it was at the end, so
Okay.
it was fine.
Okay, it's done. It's done.
Okay.
Oh,
and
I was telling you about. Did I tell you about the book? Sorry, the book.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So yes, Eat, Pray, Love. That book, again, another transformational book about self-awareness, where it's I don't need to explain why.
No, you're good. So, what does it mean to be chosen as one of the top 10 lawyers in,
Doctors?
Yeah. In a community of, we've got what, almost 100 Black doctors or more.
It's more than an honor, to be honest. I just moved to Austin in 2016, and I think it's just been a whirlwind of um, just excitement, to be honest. I think it's been great getting to learn more about the history of Austin, in Black Austin to be specific. It's just been an honor to work alongside so many accomplished Black people, in different disciplines. And then within the physician world, I mean, where do I begin? From Dr. Tina Ward, um, and all of the board members that I partner with to execute the mission of the Austin Black Physicians Association. I think I'm honored, I'm blessed, I'm humbled. I, 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 I'm excited for what's to come for not just this generation, but our community. Seeing that, we're starting to recognize our strengths, our assets, and hopefully being able to coordinate that enough where it kind of spreads across the area, and especially helping and improving the lives of our Black Austin community.
So, well, that was my last question. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Wow, this was thorough. I think if I can give a shout out to my mom. I couldn't be here without her. My dad passed away when I was 12, and so she's been raising us four kids. I'm the first of four, and I think whenever I get an opportunity to give her accolades to be able to raise children here in America, because we moved to the States, and my father passed away the month before he was supposed to move as well. So she's really been doing this journey by herself. So I just wanted to just give my mom a shout out. Thank you for encouraging me, and not letting me give up or quit. I can't tell you how many times she'll tell me that I'm almost there, even though I had just started. She'll say, "You're almost there. Just keep at it. You're almost there." And so I think she's a very strong woman. She would be my second person that I would list as my second favorite person, but it's been just great being raised by her.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. And thanks for your patience. And I know there's a few distractions, but it's been a wonderful interview. So
thank you.
Lots of good stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hi. Sorry about the environments and
no, it worked out. And hopefully we'll get to see you in person.
I know.
I'll meet you at the gala. So
definitely, I will. I'll let Tina know if she can be there on my behalf. Appreciate it. Is it going to be televised? Like, could I log on?
Oh, we're still working that piece out. Crossing my fingers, You know, the hotel gave us a $20,000 bill to do it, and I'm like, I don't think we got some people in our community that can probably help us out a little bit.
I can imagine.
We're gonna definitely try to work it out so that you guys can
no worries,
because my sorority's having our national convention the same weekend, and so we actually have a lot of honorees from the sorority, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, more power to you. I commend you for all that you've done and continue to do, especially you're starting from military background and now going into like you are the epitome of really like Black girl magic. Like, rock on. Thank you so much. I know it's not easy, so keeping you in prayer as well too.
Thank you. Need all I can get. Thank you so much. And you enjoy your time there, spending with family, and enjoy that little girl and that beautiful little boy.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.